Hi, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Star Trek on the PlayStation 3. This is also available on the Xbox 360 and I believe the PC. Don't quote me on the PC, but I know for sure the Xbox 360. I know you're probably thinking I probably should have done my research before I did a video, but I didn't. I'm a terrible person. Whatever. Let's move on. You can easily type in Star Trek on Steam, and if it pops up, it was for it, or Wikipedia, whatever your search engine of choice is. There's probably Star Trek games that might be better than this one on there. I don't know. So this is based on the J.J. Abrams reboot movie, which is sort of a reboot, but it takes place in an alternate universe. Anyway, I enjoyed the last two Star Trek films that came out. I'm sure the third one will be as good. I can't imagine them screwing it up. As of this recording, it hasn't come out yet, even though they have a different director, Simon Pegg, who I think's a pretty awesome writer since he helped out with Shaun of the Dead. I can think The World Ends Here and the Hot Fuzz. I couldn't think of the Hot Fuzz, and of course the amazing Spaced, which Netflix took off. Like, I was told that, well, after I got my X Files set, well, X Files is on Netflix right now, and I'm like, yeah, right now. I didn't say it, I was thinking it, but then I thought they took Space off, and that's one of my favorite shows, and it's hard to find an affordable copy or a copy at all, which is my problem right now at the local stores. I'd have to get it at Amazon, and it's really not as affordable as it used to be. The cheapest I've seen is like $50. We're off topic, but that's part of the Mikey's Video Game Madness video charm. At least that's what I'm gonna chalk it up to. Anyway, the screen's gonna look a little capped off. That's not the game's fault. That's because recording with component cables with the current recording device that I have right now, which for whatever reason they haven't unlocked the HDMI to record video for the PlayStation 3, so I have to use component cables, which the device turns the component cable signal into a HDMI signal, and it's a bitch. And the problem with the PlayStation 3, which I've had problems with other devices, is the resolution fluctuates a bit, and I think my problem was I had it set to go to any resolution, and to be honest, to avoid this problem, as much as I don't want to, just in case the game supports 1080p, which is somewhat rare for the PlayStation 3, unless it's like a really simple game. Most games run at 720p, and I should just cap it at that. Otherwise, I get these fantastic bars on the screen. I don't have any issues with the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 4 because you can unlock the HDMI to record through straight HDMI, but you have to use an adapter for the PlayStation 3. I have another recording device that won't even record the video if the resolution changes. So I have two different ones. And they both have their own fault. So I know you guys probably would suggest an alternative, but that's all I can afford right now. And sadly, I think a component cable recording is going to be something of the past, probably fairly soon. I was looking at my TV the other day, and I'm thinking this might be the last TV I ever owned that actually has component cable inputs on it, because the PlayStation 4, and I haven't seen the back of it, but I assume the Xbox One is HDMI only. So this is basically a Gears of War type of duck and cover game with a Star Trek skin. Think of it what you might, but I think it's a pretty fun game. Now, an issue that I haven't personally come across, and I've heard it mostly with people that have played the Xbox 360 version, that doesn't mean that it's on the PlayStation 3 version. I might have just been lucky, and when I played this game, I didn't come across a lot of patches. I don't even remember if there was any. If there was any, it was like a really tiny patch. But yeah, I haven't come across any problems. The only problem I come across is that your AI partner, which should, if you want the gaming experience to be better, I'm sure it's better to play with someone else. This is a co-op game. You either can choose as Spock or Captain Kirk. I'm not a huge Trekkie fan, so if I get the names or the terminology of anything wrong, I apologize. I didn't start at the first level because I've gotten complaints in the past about doing tutorial like levels, but the problem with not doing tutorial like levels without spending a lot of time to relearn the game is I'm going to suck, and that's exactly what's happening now. So if it looks like the game's all janky and all over the place, unless it's the AI person doing something extremely stupid, it's my fault. I'm dying a lot because I'm learning the controls because I forgot how to play this game. I literally haven't played this game in like 3 years. Doesn't mean it's bad, but I just haven't played it in 3 years. And it was fun for the short amount of time that I played it for this video, but it's very generic. If you're a fan of the movies, I think that you'll get the most out of it, which I like the movies somewhat. They're not my favorite movies in the world. I've seen the first film like 2 times and the second film once. I like them both the same amount, and just happened to be the first one came on TV one time, and I was like, oh, Star Trek, let me watch it. But yeah, I'm not a huge Trekkie, so the whole Star Wars influence, more action based stuff doesn't really bother me, which it does bother some people because I know that's not what Star Trek is all about. It's more about like exploration and politics and acceptance and all this stuff, you know. But I know this Star Trek's more about action and adventure and stuff, kind of like Star Wars, although I don't want to simplify Star Wars themes at all, because I actually am a pretty big Star Wars fan. I mean, I'm not a fanatic where I'll go and read every bit of like fan fiction novels or whatever there are, but I like Star Wars quite a bit, where I probably could quote it and hum themes that you probably wouldn't know for the most part and look like a complete nerd. But anyway, although I might be sacrilegious for liking the newer film that takes a lot of cues from the original Star Wars, but I just absolutely like it. I think it's the same thing as liking video games. That's sort of a vision of Star Wars made by someone else, except you get to play it. So just getting to revisit the universe is always a blast. And I was a person who didn't mind the prequels, but my gosh, like that newer movie made up for it in my opinion. But I understand some people's criticism for the newer film. It definitely has its issues, but overall it's just a fun film, and I absolutely love the aesthetics of it and the sound, and I really like the new characters. And if Rey was a guy or a girl, I don't care. I know some people think that Rey was put there to appease like the social justice warriors, but I think Rey's just a cool character overall. To be honest with you, I thought she was a side character at first. You know, I tried to stay away from spoilers and stuff like that, you know, because typically in Star Wars, like, there was a male protagonist. So it was an interesting change, and she was, like, really witty and well written. But I won't spoil the movie for you for the few of you that haven't seen it yet. But I have quite a bit to talk about in this 18-minute, actually, it's 20-minute video. So I'm buying myself time for what is essentially a Gears of War type game. There's duck and cover. You can tell your AI partner to go into certain areas and do certain things or whatever, but you know, sometimes they get stuck on obstacles and stuff like that, and sometimes it's kind of annoying and you feel like you're on your own a lot. Another game I could recall that I really do like, of course, it's Ghostbusters, but that was an issue where you're fighting alongside like all four of the Ghostbusters sometimes, and sometimes they're stupid and they get slimed like again, or you get down and they don't know how to get around an obstacle and then they get killed or whatever. But I'm not doing much better in this game. I'm pretty much useless as far as gunfights go. The weapons seem, actually Gears of War kind of suffered from the same problem where they seem a bit underpowered. You have to shoot the enemy quite a few times. As you might notice, you're fighting a stylized version of the Gorn. I believe that's how you say it. Wasn't that the thing that Kirk fist fought in the original series. See, I'm not a Trekkie. But that's what it is, I like the design better than the guy that looked like a rubber suit rented from Party City. And before you get on my case, I know that the '60s show was this huge like deal, and I understand that it was something new and it was ahead of its time, and it's a limited budget and all this stuff and limited effects for back in the day. It was just a bad attempt at humor, essentially. I'm sure when they were designing, if I'm right, the Gorn, if that's how you say it, in the '60s show, I'm sure the conceptual designs, like when they were drawing the creature on the pen and like on the pad with the pen and paper or whatever, I'm sure it looked just as elaborate as these creatures. But it's kind of cool to see their take on it. Some of the takes on some of the other races are interesting in this universe, like the Klingons, for example, kind of look unique, I guess. But I mean, I guess you see that throughout the series, like the '60s Klingons look a lot different from Star Trek: The Next Generations. To let you know how much of a Star Trek person I am, I like films number 2, 3, and 4, and that's usually where I draw the line. I don't own any Star Trek films. I grew up watching reruns of the '60s show as a kid, and I was probably too young to understand a lot of the undertones and themes and a lot of the stuff that was going on during the time that the show was filmed, which is something you would have to understand in order to watch the show. Because what was I, like 5 or 6 years old, you know? Like, I didn't learn about that stuff till later on in school, of what was going on in the '60s during that time and stuff like that. So, so Star Trek to me wasn't the show that it was to a lot of people that grew up when it aired, or at least was old enough when they watched it to appreciate all its themes and stuff like that. And I fully understand that, and I'm just more familiar with the Next Generation because when I watched those episodes, I was a little bit older. If I went to go watch the original series, I'd probably appreciate it a lot more. Right now, I'm working on the X-Files, so I'm hoping I'll be able to finish that by the end of the year. It's like 260 episodes almost. I'm guessing, because I think season 1 through 9 was like 250 or 40 or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing. We know it's over 230. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it at the end of the year because I'm really bad at watching shows. But maybe I'll look into rewatching Star Trek then. I don't know, but it's a show that I'm very much interested in looking back on, because I probably would see it differently than I would see it, or what I saw it as a kid. I'm sorry my commentary is all over the place. I haven't recorded a video in a week, so, you know, and I'm trying to be careful about what I say about Star Trek, because I know that the people that typically watch my channel are like huge Star Trek fans. Like in like the gaming communities, I don't care which one you join, there's always somebody posting Star Trek related jokes or memes or whatever. So I don't want to offend anybody, but I do like the J.J. Abrams movie, and I thought that he was a perfect director for Star Wars, because Star Trek was very much, his version of Star Trek was very much like Star Wars. And how cool would it be to be a director that said you not only directed Star Trek movies, but Star Wars, unless you were known as a director that destroyed both franchises, which I think some people probably feel like he did. But I think I'm not a fan of all this stuff, but I think that those two franchises that he worked on turned out, or at least the films that he worked on, turned out pretty great. I also like the movie, I believe it's called Super 8. I wasn't a huge fan of Lost or Alias. Don't really know what else he worked on, honestly. I don't have Wikipedia up in front of me, but the two things that he's worked on, or the three things that he's worked on that I've really liked, was Star Trek, Star Wars, and Super 8. I really like Super 8. It kind of reminds me of a modern take on ET, and it's a period piece that takes place around the early 80s, which ET did, and that film was amazing. J.J. Abrams is apparently a gamer himself. I hate using that term. Someone who plays games himself, and he actually apologized for this game. He wasn't a huge fan of this game. But you have all the voice actors from the film, and considering some other games that I've played that had voice actors for the film, because I believe that voice acting is a extremely different kind of acting than being in an actual film, because you have to emote in a different way, and sometimes like actors in video games. Again, I'll bring up Ghostbusters. It was great to have Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson reprise their roles, and Annie Potts, and whoever else was in the film that I didn't mention that was in the game. But some of the actors' lines came up dry. I think Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson did the best job. I think Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray kind of hammed it up a bit, where they didn't seem like their characters or how they would act on film. Annie Potts also did an amazing job of even though she was answering the phones, but she did an amazing job of not overdoing her attitude and acting like she would in the film. And I think for the most part the actors do a pretty good job in this. I think some of the animations are off. I'd like to say this game was rushed for the film to come out, and maybe it was towards the end, but this game was in development for a long time. Before I even think that the second Star Trek film was even a thing. Like, I remember seeing screenshots of it, like from E3 or whatever, like right after the first film came out, and it was just delayed and delayed. I didn't think it was ever going to come out, and then suddenly when they announced the newer Star Trek film, all of a sudden this game came out. So this was in development for quite some time. So for a shorter game with problems that are apparently game breaking, I just haven't experienced them myself. Again, maybe they're more prevalent on the 360, or I've just been lucky. I don't know. Or maybe they've been patched. Maybe there was a little patch that was put in that I didn't realize, but I haven't come across any problems. The only problem I really come across in this game is, like I said, your AI partner is a little bit stupid, and sometimes they don't know how to get around corners, and all of a sudden, as you saw earlier in your video, you see like your partner just teleport like in the elevator or something like that. It's like the game's like, I give up, I'm just gonna help him out, just put the asshole in the elevator with him. But overall, as a fun movie game that expands on the adventures of Spock, you get to see the crew. There's some like turret-like levels that are kind of fun, that spice things up a little bit, but it's not gonna blow your mind. This isn't Star Trek Mass Effect. This is Star Trek Gears of War, but it's a fun game. I think it's hilarious that you actually have to stun the enemies, or you get scolded, which is always kind of funny, which I forgot about, as you'll see shortly. But and it's really insulting to get attacked by I believe a red shirt. I'm colorblind. His shirt might be like purple or something. I'm not that colorblind. Sometimes I use colorblindness as an excuse because I'm scared there's a chance I might be wrong. But you know, it's whatever. Like when I was talking about Dead Island and the blood, I should have been more specific. Like the blood does look right in some areas of the game. I'm getting meta here. I'm talking about another video and a video. But there's like splotches of blood, but some of the reflections on the blood weren't programmed right, and there would be like this metallic reflection that almost looked like brass in some ways when the light hit it, and it just didn't look right. And you could tell it wasn't part of the whole decal because it would be like all pixelated and not match the puddle all that well. And then I die. But eventually, guess I'm spoiling the game, but I gotta wrap this up. But this is Star Trek. As long as you don't have any bugs and you can find this game fairly affordable. Or if you're a fan, maybe $20. I don't think you'll ever get charged $60 for this game. It's been out too long. But I think it's a fun Gears of War game with a Star Trek flavor, and I think it's worth checking out, especially at a lower price if you like this type of game and like the characters. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Bye.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.